flow of time. Something's very odd about it.
You can't abandon a good friend, can you?
Hey,
You won't have your way!
I hope you're ready
Do it! History is changing.
for the Time Patrol's greatest fight yet.
Ow.
This is going to be most interesting. You again, huh?
You are going to pay for this!
Settle in. It's about to get good.
It's been years since I last went through the story of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I remember playing the beta for this one, and much like the series it's based on, this game has evolved in more ways than one. Now for a while I thought about skipping the base story entirely, but I felt like I needed to walk through the original story again to really appreciate and understand what the team has been building up to since launch. The improvements in this sequel are massive, not only in terms of gameplay but through the depth of the story. While Demogorgon's arc in the first game was new, it didn't really do much to make the player invest in him as a villain. Mira, on the other hand, has been built upon extensively this time around. He's evolved into a much more unique character than anyone expected. If you haven't watched part 1, I recommend going back and checking that out first. If you're jumping straight in here and raw dogging that story, I respect it. But this game doesn't always make things easy to follow. We start back with the character creation. While the promotional material uses me or Bun, depending on whatever you call this guy, I wanted to bring back something familiar. Now the channel mascot was created in this system, so I felt it right to use him again here. Our new warrior is way less composed than Ace. This new future warrior isn't quite like him. They're clumsier, more excitable, and it shows up almost immediately in that first battle at Radits. And right after he hears he's been selected for the job, he soars back into Conton City, breaking multiple municipal codes. Our first assignment sends us to age 761. Where Goku and Piccolo are facing Radits. Something is wrong here again with the timeline. Radits is stronger than he should be, clearly boosted by some outside force. The new future warrior steps in and helps Goku push the fight back under his control, successfully weakening the Saiyan, allowing Piccolo to land that killing blow and restore the timeline. But before the mission closes, two unfamiliar figures watch the scene from a distance. Now back in age 852, the future warrior returns to the time nest. Old Kai congratulates them on the successful correction, but doesn't sugarcoat that the job is going to get more difficult. Now I know someone's going to be confused on how Old Kai got here. I know because I was confused on how this decrepit gooner made his way over here. So during the events of the first game's resurrection of FDLC, the elder Kai finds his way to Toki Toki City as a mentor, eventually teaching Ace how to overcome his dark, ambitious ego, ultimately cleansing and purifying the hero and then unlocking his potential. Sometime between these games, Cronoa asks him to return to help run the academy, setting up the next generation of time patrollers. This new Conton City is also thanks to him and Cronoa, both using their magic to construct a barrier around the time nest and the city. And as much as I don't like this character, he's here to stay and actually serves as a mentor-like role to our hero. Cronoa arrives soon after and brings the new recruit back to Conton City. There she shows them the large hologram of the previous future warrior Ace, the hero who saved the timelines before the new patrol ever joined the fight. This was one of the highlights when I first played this game. Seeing the first hero come back and have the praise they deserve is such a heavy moment. You're standing there in the shadow of a legend, realizing just how much you have to live up to. Back in the time nest, the scrolls reveal another rift in age 762, during the stand against Nappa and Vegeta, another familiar battle that takes a different turn from the original run-through that we had in the first game. While the Z fighters sense Goku approaching, they also detect a second, sinister key signature closing in on him. The geriatric Kai sends the future warrior to investigate, and the source of the disturbances reveals itself. Turles, the evil space pirate, is here, causing a disturbance in a timeline he doesn't belong to. Soon after, Trunks reports that his partner Ace is already on his way. Once Ace arrives, Turles retreats and the pursuit shifts away from the moment in history. This is the first time we hear from Trunks, who's now been out with Ace exploring the timelines, trying to follow up on the distortions and chasing after Toa and Mira. It's a shame we didn't get to see those adventures in any DLCs or side quests. It would have been a cool addition to replay some missions with our first hero, set between the time of the first and second game. Goku and the future warrior return to the battlefield where only Krillin and Gohan remain. Goku turns his attention to Vegeta while the future warrior takes on Nappa. Fight goes on eerily similar to Ace's first run through until Vegeta creates a power ball and both he and Nappa transform into great apes. It's said that Turles delaying Goku created a chain reaction and now the fight has moved somewhere history never attended to. It is a nice change of pace to fight Great Ape Nappa directly in the story. In the original game, he mostly exists in one parallel quest and the one cutscene where Goku had to deal with the monkey deal on his own, so seeing the transformation folded into the story gives this section a bit more of a unique experience compared to that first game. Now, like I said in the first video, I'm playing this game with the Dragon Ball Revamp mod installed. They have multiple additions that show up across the campaign, including this version of Nappa's redesigned to resemble his appearance in Dragon Ball Online. After dealing with Nappa, the events of the Saiyan saga unfold just like we are used to, and with history finally back on track, it's time to head back to the time nest. Looking back at both of these games, the core beats of this arc and the next arc stay consistent. The real difference comes from the new patroller and their personality guiding the story. Obviously the characters don't talk in the story, so all of this is conveyed through their body language. Ace was stoic and eager to learn, but this new character's whimsical, impulsive, and brash attitude keeps that familiar moment from feeling stale. There's a subtle evolution in the way this protagonist carries himself that usually goes unnoticed, one that I didn't even catch until this specific playthrough. We're given a glimpse into the group. Turles and Slug are confronted by Towa, Mira, and a masked man who's definitely not Bardock. Slug makes it clear he isn't taking any orders from Mira. He's only here for revenge on Gohan. Strange, I'd be more mad at Goku for defeating me, but you do you, I guess. Towa offers both of them something more direct. Each is given a fruit of the Tree of Might, enhanced beyond what we've seen before. Even on its own, the fruit pushes the fighter far beyond their limits. Layered with the dark energy and the repeated use of them, it places both of them somewhere far outside from their original scale. Just like in the first game, my feelings on the Namek arc in this one are mixed. There's definitely some fun to be had here, but that tends to come from the story stepping away from the original path and the version we already saw in the first game. We start this arc with the old Kai witnessing a scene where Frieza appears with a strange aura around him that influences his decision to send both Zarbon and Doria after Gohan and Krillin and Dende. If you haven't noticed yet, the dark aura the time breakers give not only physically changes your strength, but also changes your thought patterns and how you confront situations. If the decisions are more clear or clouded is up to you to debate, really. Now the wrinkled Kai sends us in to prevent any further desyncs. It seems like the Time Patrol is acting much earlier now, stepping in before major changes can even manifest. Now that they have more eyes and more patrollers at their disposal, they can avoid those darker timelines before things get too far out of hand. The Future Warrior helps Krillin fend the two off, and the old Kai orders the warrior to do just enough damage to Zarbon so Krillin can have an opening to escape. Since Zarbon still has storyline anchors they can't avoid, they have to be careful not to kill him and cause even more timeline alterations. But before the warrior can return to the time nest with history intact, they are blindsided by the evil Namekian Lord Slug. Krillin realizes that he and Turles were pulled from different timelines to work for Towa and Mira. After seeing Trunks appear to help, Slug retreats. Meanwhile, Doria has been mysteriously powered up, so the warrior has to help Vegeta finish him off. While the Time Patrol has better eyes in the timelines now, the randomness of the Time Breakers is clearly shaking them up, as they fail to notice the immediate shifts happening in history. Captain Ginyu has stolen Vegeta's body once again, repeating a pattern that the duo did before. Maybe they just get a kick out of Vegeta's humiliation.
Captain Ginyu of the Ginyu Force!
Look how they massacred my boy.
Trunks takes off to track them while we head to the point where the Ginyu Force first arrives on Namek. These moments play out close to what we expect at first. The Dragon Balls are delivered, the Ginyu Force assembles, and the fight begins, just without the drag that came with this section in the first game. Midway through this chaos though, Turles shows up, using the fruit of the Tree of Might to amplify both Birder and Jace. As we're helping Goku, the Saiyan notices something off.
Yo! Captain Ginyu of the Ginyu Force has arrived!
Ginyu returns now in Trunks' body. Trunks appears soon after, displaced into Ginyu's damaged one, and the fight splits across both versions of him. Now replaying this story has really shown to me how much of a fraud Trunks is. Keep in mind, this Trunks was able to keep up with Beerus and Whis in the last game, and he's now getting his body taken by Ginyu. And they say Gohan's fall from grace was rough. Eventually, everyone's bodies are returned back to normal, and the timeline is set back into the normal course of action. After we show up back to the time nest, Trunks is visibly ashamed of falling into Towa's trap. So he and Ace head off to hunt down the Time Breakers, leaving the warrior to handle the heavy lifting of repairing history on his own. We are sent back into the Namek saga to help assist Nail, now doing his best to stall against this mysteriously powered up Frieza. Towards the end of the match, Old Kai and Krillin quickly realize the real threat going on. Turles and Slug are making a move for the Dragon Balls. Turles confronts Gohan at the ship. We jump in to help protect him and sideline Krillin from the Timebreaker lackeys. In a desperate bit of power, Turles and Slug agree for a truce and consume an amplified fruit of the Tree of Might. The Future Warrior and Gohan take them both on, but the villains' egos are as big as their power-ups. Once Krillin wakes up, the warrior tells him and Gohan to get out and take the Dragon Balls with them. It's here where Turles and Slug realize the fruit that they ate was tainted with Towa's dark energy.
It looks like my experiment was a success.
Something she must have done knowing the two wouldn't fully pledge their loyalty to her. The fight holds there until Trunks and Ace arrive. Trunks places his attention on the fight in front of him, trusting Ace to chase down Mira and Towa. The cutscenes in this game have improved by leaps and bounds compared to the first title. Not only are they sprinkled more frequently throughout the story, but they do a fantastic job of highlighting pivotal moments for the patroller, doing a great job of making these cinematic moments make the journey feel much more personal. Now it doesn't stop there. Once the two are taken down, Krinoa sends a warrior to help Gohan's group against Frieza, holding the line until Goku arrives to drop the spirit bomb. The timeline starts to fall back into that normal course of action, but history takes a sharp left turn when Cooler appears.
Thinking of your safety at a time like this? You always were weak. Is that you?
Towa and Mira have plucked Cooler from the timeline and dropped him here to save his brother. Both he and Frieza take on the same villainous state, and the fight turns into one of the first real walls the game puts in front of you, and a massive hurdle the future warrior has to now overcome on his own. Up until this point, the game has felt like it's holding your hand, but this match serves as the first true boss fight of the tutorial phase. Yes, I did say tutorial. After you beat both the Saiyan and Namek saga, you're technically out of the game's tutorial. Once Cooler is defeated, the timeline aligns itself once again, allowing the patroller to leave and catch up with Trunks and Ace.
So you couldn't seal the deal?
Hurry after him!
We now jump ship into the Cell saga, getting a glimpse of when Cell absorbed 1718 far earlier than he should have. Trunks points out that even though Cell obtained perfection, it was the growth of the Saiyans in such a short time during these battles that really piqued his interest to see how far they could push themselves in the next 10 days. So without that showcase of power, he would proceed to destroy everybody. We are then sent to delay the inevitable transformation. The warrior helps Piccolo take on a villainous Android 17, but the fight is cut short when a powered-up Cell arrives. Once Piccolo is downed, Android 16 steps in and advises a retreat, intending to handle Cell himself. Now in the original timeline, 16 is supposed to be comparable to Cell, but because of the villainous mode buff, the warrior has to stay behind and back him up. Despite the effort, Cell manages to sneak behind Android 17 to complete the absorption. We jump forward ahead as the Cell games begin to open. Trunks notices a participant who definitely does not belong on the roster, Mira. While Goku and Cell kick off the tournament, the warrior and Trunks confront Mira in a separate location. Mira's focus remains fixed on strengths, something he's been obsessed with since the first game, but it's here where he really starts to question the motives of those fighting against him, and how they continue to keep growing stronger. When Trunks tries to explain the weight of his own resolve, it only leaves Mira confused. Towa then makes her move, appearing and disappearing alongside Mira, who has clearly just been toying with the group to buy her some time. Trunks notices that Cell's power has spiked thanks to Towa's magic. He has to take his leave here. His presence overlaps with the Trunks already participating in this moment. That leaves the patroller to step into the Cell games alone, joining the Z Fighters against the villainous Cell Jr. Just as the timeline starts to resemble the history we know, a wormhole tears open in the sky. A group of metal coolers descend, announcing their participation in the Cell games. And while Gohan and Cell seem to take notice, it feels like a missed opportunity that the rest of the cast isn't more confused or comment on the sudden arrival of a mechanical army. Krinoa advises Trunks to jump back through the wormhole so he could avoid being seen by Gohan and the others. After the meta coolers are pushed back and retreat through the rift, the patroller follows them to new planet Namek. There the patroller is swarmed by even more metal coolers. Eventually Trunks arrives to help, revealing that he's already programmed a self-destruct sequence to the Big Kitty Star's main computer. Now this is probably the most useful Trunks has been in the entire game. Seeing him actually use his brain like this is a nice touch, especially since we don't get to see that side of him often enough. Together they clean out what's left and the chain feeding the metal cooler shuts down. The warrior returns to the Cell games to assist Gohan against a powered up Cell, finally aligning the timeline back to where it needs to go. On my first playthrough, this entire section caught me off guard. Longtime viewers of this channel know exactly how much this era of Dragon Ball means to me. Not only is it something I've always wondered about, but it's also a question I've had since the first game. But before I continue, I want to pose a question to you all. Think back to a moment in your life you believe you could have changed, something you desperately wanted to change. If you had the ability to do so, knowing it would cause a major issue, not only in your own life, but presumably the lives of many others, would you still go through with it? Trunks is forced to face that exact dilemma as he reviews a fracture in history, and it takes him somewhere he's never really been able to leave. Krinoa checks in on him, knowing how sensitive this specific era is for him. The warrior arrives in the bleak future to help Gohan fight a villainous Android 16, a machine that has no business existing in this timeline. And from the jump, future Gohan starts questioning how the warrior could even be here, when the rest of the fighters have already been wiped out. He should have noticed him. He would have noticed him. Mira decides to make his move here, challenging Gohan. Power calls to him, and nobody else has that sort of potential power growth like Gohan. Growing impatient and terrified that both Gohan and the Patroller are about to die, Trunks ignores the orders of the old Kai and Kranoa, charging into this destroyed landscape in his Super Saiyan form. And after a battle with Mira, he decides to retreat. But something about him feels unsettled. The cracks in his composure are now wider than ever. Since his first encounter with this new Patroller, he hasn't been able to land any real damage. And even after being rebuilt and strengthened, he's still coming up short. But what follows is a meeting between future Gohan and Trunks that stands out as one of the most beautiful moments in this game, offering a sense of closure for both Trunks and the fans of the series that have been asking for years what if Gohan met his grown-up pupil.
You came from the future, didn't you? So Bulma was able to finish her time machine. I'm really proud of you, Trunks.
Thanks.
Right. It's not the time for this. 17 and 18 are attacking the city.
You're right. And this time, Gohan. Gohan, I'll go with you to fight. This time, I won't hold you back.
What are you saying? You know you're not allowed to do that, Trunks. If you help out Gohan here, you'll change the course of history.
I know. But
Trunks?
Please, you have to stop Trunks.
Trunks. Is there something you want to tell me? If you're here, all grown up, then the future is safe, isn't it? And so, this fight has a real purpose. That's enough for me.
No! You can't! Go on!
Trunks, it looks like you've made a good friend. You can't abandon a good friend, can you? It was really good to see you, Trunks.
Gohan!
We now shift scenes to when future Trunks returns to his timeline after the Cell games, only to be confronted by that same villainous android 16. Despite Trunks being far more powerful than 16 is supposed to be, he begins to struggle until the Time Patroller steps in. A now powered up future Cell eventually appears in his perfect form, having already absorbed the future androids. Once the duo defeat the pair and return to the Time Nest, Xeno Trunks offers a sincere apology for his reckless actions. He thanks the warrior for helping him navigate that brutal choice of letting Gohan fly off to his death, something he needed to do to keep history intact, but it's a choice that he doesn't seem to be so decisive on.
Gohan!
The Supreme Kai of Time announces that Toki Toki has finally laid an egg. These eggs mark the dawn of an entirely new timeline. But meanwhile, in an unknown location, the masked Saiyan delivers Babidi's energy-sucking device to Towa. She uses the stolen energy to empower Mira, but despite the power boost, Mira is starting to feel uneasy about power he didn't obtain on his own. Almost like a guilt. People like the Patroller and Bardock have been able to grow immensely and challenge his own power in no time. Now the treatment of the Buu arc feels very disappointing. Cutting out those what if everything went wrong glimpses really does leave a gap here. Without seeing the version of events where things fall apart, Majin Buu just feels like the next fight in line instead of a horrific timeline where it mattered that he was much stronger than Vegeta in an already losing fight. This feels the exact same for Broly. Without the contrast, without seeing how far things could spiral, his involvement doesn't give the moment any sense of urgency the way it probably should. Although they have more eyes on the timeline distortions, it's also been shown that the randomness of the time breakers have made it hard to track when or where they will attack next. It ends up making this section feel just as rushed as it did in the first game. A now powered up Broly interrupts the fight between Goku and Majin Vegeta. The Patroller finishes off Broly and moves to support the prince against a now even more powered up Majin Buu, which I feel like we could have left Vegeta to fight him alone. Vegeta was destined to die in this match anyway, aligning the timeline where it needed to go. There is some fun dialogue in this match though. Vegeta actually offers thanks for taking care of Broly so he could focus on Goku. He then warns us of the stakes ahead. After knocking out Trunks and Goten, Vegeta tells Piccolo to clear this area and the warrior returns to the Time Nest. Later the Patroller arrives to assist Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks and Piccolo against a villainous Super Buu. When the fusion wears off, the Patroller has to hold the line until Gohan arrives with his potential fully awakened, but just as Gohan lands, Broly makes a sudden return. Assuming this is the same Broly from earlier, this feels like a massive oversight on the Time Patroller's part for not scrubbing him from the timeline properly when they had the chance, leaving the Patroller to finally kill him here. Trunks lets the group know that Vegeta is unable to return to Earth because he's being held up in Hell, creating a massive anomaly in history as Vegeta is a necessary component to eventually fuse with Goku. The Patroller leaves Gohan to handle things on Earth and makes a move towards Hell to assist the Prince. Trunks offers his help, but he's forced to stay sidelined because the present version of Vegeta is in the immediate vicinity. Vegeta eventually appears, and this battle leads to him destroying Janemba with the final flash. The only way this feat makes any sense is if the patroller did the heavy lifting, beating Janemba down to such a low amount of health that a base form Buu Saga Vegeta could actually finish the job. We are then sent forward again into the final stand against Kid Buu. The patroller is stepping in to help Vegeta, who actually remembers the warrior from their encounter in Hell, as they both hold off a super-powered Kid Buu while Goku charges the Super Spirit Bomb. Once the attack is fully prepped, Goku launches and vaporizes Buu just like the original timeline. But as the heroes take a moment to rest, the warrior catches a glimpse of a strange key signature, a key signature that leads to the masked Saiyan spying in on the altercation. We appear in age 778. The God of Destruction Beerus is discussing the powers of the Super Saiyan God with Goku following their clash. Their conversation is cut short by the sudden arrival of the patroller and the masked Saiyan.
I know that face. It's Bardock. I love the place I work. I just hate the people in charge.
You're telling me no one on the Time Patrol thought this could have been Bardock from the get-go? Alright. Mira again jumps into another ongoing battle, demanding a fight with the patroller, now that he has become enticed by how much stronger the recruit has grown. Beerus starts to lose his patience with the interruptions, and Mira actually tells the destroyer to stay back and keep out of the fight that he's enjoying. This naturally sends Beerus into a rage, and he prepares to destroy everything in sight. Krenoa sends in a desperate peace offering, a bowl of pudding. Mira and Bardock get away, but we are now forced to deal with a rampaging Beerus, completely disgusted with Krenoa's cooking. Once the situation calms down, Beerus declares he's had enough of Krenoa's cooking and departs with Whis. Goku offers his thanks as Earth remains safe for another day. This next arc marks the first time we get to play this specific era in a Dragon Ball game. While the previous title includes some of the content as DLC towards the end of its life cycle, it didn't actually come with a dedicated story mode until now. The Time Patrol begins to speculate on Towa's endgame, concluding she is once again attempting to revive the Demon Realm. It's only now that it finally dawns on Trunks that he hasn't heard from Ace in quite some time. Their conversation is cut short as they realize a new distortion in the timeline is starting to stir up. The Patroller is sent to age 779 to assist the Z-Fighters against a resurrected Frieza and his henchmen. Working alongside Jocko, the warrior clears out waves of Frieza soldiers who have been pushed into the villainous mode, now giving Earth's defenders more trouble than they normally would. Once the lackeys are dealt with, Frieza himself steps out to try his hand at the new Saiyan. Goku and Vegeta arrive shortly after, with Goku tapping into Super Saiyan Blue while Frieza reveals his golden form right off the bat. This version of the story gets a massive +10 for me right off the gate for skipping over the infamous weak Gohan scene from the movie. It's not too long after the two are fighting that a villainous metal cooler drops in to back up his brother. Vegeta now powers up to Super Saiyan Blue to even the odds. Now, while Metal Cooler's inclusion feels a bit random, it's a welcome addition that feels like a direct sequel to the earlier Namek distortion. It just seems like he should have been saved for this moment instead of appearing back in the Cell arc. During the chaos, Krenoa asks Beerus and Whis for help, enticing them with cream puffs to deal with Mira and Towa's attack on the Time Nest. They both agree and depart. With Frieza defeated, he manages to destroy the Earth just like the original timeline, with Trunks appearing just in time to pull the Patroller back to safety. Back at the Time Nest, the Supreme Kai of Time reveals that Towa impersonated her to lure Beerus and Whis away so Whis couldn't perform a temporal do-over. Whis, Beerus, and the Patroller return to the void where Earth should be. Whis rewinds time to the moment before the explosion, allowing the Patroller to stop Frieza's final desperate move. The trio of Goku, Vegeta, and the Patroller finish off the now powered up Golden Frieza and Metal Cooler. Beerus remains annoyed by Towa's interference and threatens to destroy the Time Nest. Whis, intrigued by Toki Toki's egg hatching, refuses to let him and offers a spar with Beerus to blow off some steam. Whis invites the Patroller to join the match. Now halfway through, Beerus bails and leaves the Patroller to fight and defeat Whis alone. It's a massive leap in power compared to where Ace was at this point in the story, and you can really see the maturity kicking in through these fights. The Patroller finally understands the weight sitting on the Time Patrol's shoulders. While things finally calm down, the group turn their focus to Bardock's involvement, tracing the anomaly back to his disappearance from the original timeline. Towa and Mira emerge, leading to a chase that lands the group on Earth at an unspecified point in time. Towa appears alongside Bardock, who is now even more powered up in his villainous mode. Mira joins in to back him up with the full intent of finally ending his rivalry with these two. But once the duo is defeated, Bardock's mask finally shatters. In a desperate move, Towa traps the warrior and Trunks in a wormhole, slowly dragging them into a separate dimension with no exit. Mira is visibly frustrated by this. He wanted to stay and prove his strength to finally be crowned the strongest. In a sudden twist, Bardock regains consciousness and blasts the duo out of the wormhole to safety. Free from the mind control, Bardock traps Mira in a full Nelson. And thanks to the power boost he's gained while under Towa's influence, Bardock is strong enough to keep Mira pinned. To Mira's absolute fury, Bardock drags him into the rift, disappearing into that separate dimension. Where they end up isn't revealed just yet, but Towa reveals her true ace in the hole.
But I won't be giving up that easily.
She has captured Trunks' original partner, now wearing a Timebreaker mask and serving under her control. The patroller is forced into a heart-wrenching battle against the legendary hero of the first game, once again proving just how much this new recruit has grown. When the mind-controlled Ace is finally defeated, Towa decides to wipe the slate clean. She makes Ace vanish into thin air, and with him the very memory of his existence scrubbed from everybody's mind. This was a massive shock in the first playthrough and one of the best showcases of the new patroller's development. Looking back, it's almost funny how Trunks spent the whole game asking where Ace was while old Kai and Cronoa just told him to wait. Trunks has always had the ability to call him via Scouter just like he does with us. If there was no answer, the investigation should have started way sooner. It's also unfortunate we never get to see this actual capture of Ace. Seeing Mira, who has clearly surpassed his old self, overpowering the hero who once defeated him would have added a lot of weight to his character arc. The team returned to the time nest with a shattered mask in hand, but the memory of Ace remains a void. Trunks slowly begins to piece the fragments together, remembering the moment in age 850 where he first made the wish that brought Ace into the Time Patrol. Towa appears before the wish can be granted and destroys Shenron. This single change causes the time nest to start fracturing. Without Ace, the events he fixed across history had never occurred. The patroller quickly travels to that pivotal moment to prevent the destruction of the dragon. Working alongside the Trunks of that era, the warrior takes on Towa and forces her to retreat, allowing history to stabilize. However, Towa suddenly manifests within the time nest, ambushing the Supreme Kai of Time and seizing Toki Toki's egg. This was her endgame all along. By tapping into Ace's memories during his mind control, she gained knowledge of how to bypass the time nest magical barrier using the broken mask as a key. This knowledge also allowed her to be able to project her voice to fool Beerus and Whis in the earlier arc. Mira appears somehow getting through the one-way wormhole to fend off Trunks and the warrior. The final confrontation unfolds in the ruins of an unspecified city, as the patroller battles a villainous Mira. The android finally realizes why he couldn't overcome the Time Patrol. Every one of them has the heart to stand up for their beliefs, a resolve that allows these weaklings to constantly grow past him. In the moment, Mira finally understands and weaponizes the core message of the series: constant self-improvement. During the struggle, Mira begins to overheat from his own immense power, slipping into a state of competitive insanity. He refuses to be anything less than the strongest.
No repairs will be needed. Oh, I've grown past your schematics. I'm walking on my own now. Now, I will evolve into something beyond myself. By absorbing my own creator.
Mira! But I was the one who made you. You'd turn on me? You're nothing but a failure.
I'm getting an unusual energy reading.
This feels wonderful.
Hey, can you hear me? He absorbed all the power from Toki Toki's egg. There's nothing we can do to stop him now. Quickly, escape is the only chance.
It's a little too soon to start giving up.
This transformation brings him to the most powerful state, a Super Saiyan 4-like transformation. Whis brought Goku to this point in time, allowing him to finally repay the debt he owed the patroller from the previous battles, and giving us a much better explanation than in the first game. Two engage in a fierce final clash against Mira, who is absolutely delighted to fight without shackles against the two strongest warriors in history. Eventually, Mira's power begins to fluctuate. Seizing the opportunity, the warrior calls upon the energy of every friend made throughout the journey and launches the Dragon Fist. The attack punches clean through the android and secures the egg. As Mira is destroyed, he dies laughing, satisfied that he finally got to lose a true fight against such powerful warriors.
Yes!
Does this mean I lose? It was a good fight. I have no regrets.
In an alternate ending, Goku's the one to land the Dragon Fist while the warrior supports him with a Kamehameha to finish Mira off. A nice nod to the first game's branching finale. Back at the Time Nest, history is fully restored and peace returns. Before heading back to their own era, Beerus, Whis, and Goku join the rest of the Time Patrol for a massive celebratory banquet in Conton City, and Goku begins to instigate a fight between the two Time Patrollers. Now, if you complete specific side events, you're granted 2 extra scenarios that answer some of the lingering questions players might have had. First, Cronoa and Old Kai review what actually happened with Bardock. They find a battle occurring in a rift between time and space where Bardock is fighting for revenge against Mira for stealing his body and mind. Mira learns what every other villain in the series eventually discovers. No matter what you do to a Saiyan, they continue to grow. Pure rage over what the Timebreakers did to him forces Bardock into the multiple Super Saiyan forms. It's in that moment that Mira begins to understand the resolve of these fighters. Bardock pushes all the way into Super Saiyan 3 to beat it into Mira that barriers are meant to be broken. Obsessing over who's currently the strongest only keeps you stagnant. Ultimately, the team can't figure out Bardock's final whereabouts, and no explanation is given how Mira escaped that dimension either. But since Bardock was snatched from the moment of his original death, there's an anomaly out there somewhere in the timeline.
I lost. I always wondered what it would feel like. That thing they have, that I don't. I think that I understand what it is now.
The second scenario finds us back with Trunks rewatching the moment the warrior stopped him from saving Gohan. We're thrown into a brutal 1v2 as future Gohan takes on the androids. Just as things start to look bleak, Trunks flies in and obliterates both 17 and 18. Keep in mind, this Trunks has only grown stronger since his battle with Beerus in the first game. He's an entirely different class by now. At first, Gohan is actually a bit angered that Trunks defied his orders and jumped in, but he eventually softens as he realizes he can't change what's already happened. Trunks doubles down, stating he may never be able to return to the Time Patrol, but it doesn't matter as long as his friend is alive. He starts telling Gohan about the many foes they need to prepare for, confident they'll be strong enough to face them together. Cronoa, Old Kai, and the Patroller watch these events unfold, giving us an option to interfere or leave it alone. Ultimately, there's no mechanical outcome, but it seems Cronoa pardons the tampering since Trunks shows back up after the mission. It's a beautiful moment that fans have wanted to see for years, but it feels wrapped up a bit too quickly, and it's unfortunate there weren't more post-game consequences for such a massive choice. Looking back at it, I really forgot how much I loved this game. It's actually the title I have the most time spent on across everything I own on consoles and PC. Despite the flaws and the story feeling a bit rushed at times, the sequel took everything the first game did and made it much better. Mira stands out as one of the absolute best villains in the history of Dragon Ball games, evolving from a simple powerhouse into a character with real philosophy. But the story is far from over. This game has nearly a decade's worth of DLC for me to dive into next. So if you enjoyed this retrospective, be sure to subscribe and stick around for the next installment in this series as we see how much further this timeline can bend. It's been your local overanalyzer Art Tellings, and I hope you have yourself a damn good one.
Trunks, I really owe you one. It's thanks to you that we were able to beat the androids. You've turned into a really strong fighter, my friend.
Thanks, Gohan.